Hi, I'm in Austin. I'm at the Big 5G event. I'm here with Geoff Hollingworth from Rakuten. Geoff, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me.
Nice to see you at an actual big show, and we haven't been getting out much recently. So, but yeah, you've got a very interesting role with a very interesting company, quite high profile, obviously, doing all sorts of whizzy new things with cloud and software and Open RAN, and I'm interested to get your perspective. I mean, they've just had an earnings update last week. But they also have this international project that you're involved in to now start pitching those technologies to other companies. Where are we up to with all of this? I mean, what's just a general take on how things are going? And there's been a bit of skepticism about whether it will work out and how it's obviously incredibly ambitious. But what's your sort of take on how things are at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to chat because we just updated literally a couple of days ago with the latest quarterly report. I think we're doing in Rakuten Mobile what the industry has spoken about doing for a long time, but we're actually doing it. And I think for the first time in this last quarterly report, we start to see both sides of the same coin. The first side of the coin is just around efficiency through automation and cloud-based operations. So one data point that was announced now is that we have over 270,000 emitting cell sectors, but only 250 people operating the network, actually touching that network. Yep. Now Tarek, our CEO, Tarek Amin, has put a hiring freeze on our operations team to introduce fake pressure to make sure that we never get fat. So we scale through software, we don't scale through people. That's key number one. And obviously when you can do that, you can start to do things a lot faster, cheaper and quicker. The other side though that I think is more interesting is, of course, that's all great, but that's on the cost saving side. You need to start making a business out of this. And for the first time, we released just some simple numbers about the effects of Rakuten Mobile into the greater Rakuten ecosystem. And what we have seen is a 67% uplift of revenue for members who are on Rakuten Mobile and part of the ecosystem. But also 35% of people started shopping for the first time. 20% of the people started getting a credit card from Rakuten for the first time. 10% have started banking with Rakuten. So there is this connection now between the network investments and the effects that are indirect revenue into the larger ecosystem.
And that, I mean, just going on to that automation point, because that's quite an incredible figure that there's only 250 staff still, even though it's now a sort of national network, 97% coverage. I mean, is it always going to be possible to do it at that level? And obviously the other operators have many more people when they're doing this kind of thing. So what are the sort of steps that Rakuten's taken to make that possible and avoid this sort of bloat that you see in the workforce usually?
Well, so I think let's just recognize one difference with Rakuten Mobile, that we started as an internet company doing telecom.
Yep.
That was a luxury. It allowed us to design this the ways that we want to design it. Now when we come out to other established operators, then obviously we have to find the right places to start and transform. But it's important to understand that like all of us in our industry are continuously investing in new build out, and there's an ability to start to transform what people do. So the less people have to focus on just keeping things going, the more time they have to actually focus on whether people are having a good time in the network that they are being delivered on. So in the middle between the ecosystem and the actual network, there's this huge area around customer care and the reinvention of trying to actually have a good experience. Now in Rakuten, again, we have a blessing where we have reward systems, point systems, loyalty systems. I think it's an opportunity for us as an industry to start asking whether we can do this at a broader scale, and obviously in Rakuten Symphony they're the kind of discussions now that we want to start having with the rest of the operator population.
This is the holy grail really, isn't it, for the telco world, to be able to do something like that and not just depend on selling connectivity, when you have a huge workforce and massive costs, and you see those being eroded every year by new sort of build-outs, and some of the stuff that people are talking about here, actually, the need for a 6G standard, and if they could do something like Rakuten's done, then it would answer a lot of those strategic problems, I guess, that the industry faces.
Yeah, I think the industry has been upside down. I think the industry has become, for some reason, obsessed with technology. And the technology then almost bleeds out and starts to define the customer experience. And that's very bizarre. To run a good business, you have to be good at the business you run.
Yep.
So we have invested in becoming really good at running our business. It's a bit like running 100 meters. You can't, me or you, wake up in the morning. We're never going to qualify for any kind of sports team because we haven't trained, we haven't worked out. But once you start to work out and get better and improve, then you can start to compete in a different way. So I think we've approached it as an industry the wrong way around. We've tried to get the benefits without putting the hard work in yet. I think Rakuten Mobile's magic is they have put that hard work in, they can show the benefits, and now Rakuten Symphony can share those benefits with other operators where they want to adopt.
So Symphony is the bit, obviously, that's marketing. It's what Rakuten's done at home, I guess, to other companies around the world. What is it, when you're having conversations with prospective clients and people like 1&1 in Germany, which I guess is the kind of the flagship customer in a way, what are the things they're most interested in? I mean, is it that automation angle, being able to run a network with very, very few people compared with what they've done, or are there other things that you see them coming to you for?
Yeah, so it depends on the customer, I think, is the right way to answer that. So, for example, when we work with 1&1, what they clearly care about is running a successful, highly profitable business. So we start with those outcomes, come back to the KPIs that drive those, and then we deliver according to those KPIs. And again, 1&1 has the fortune from ourselves that it's standing up a new operation. If you are, say, an AT&T, we're working very hard on the planning and building of radio networks and how we redesign how to do that. Now, whenever we engage in our Rakuten Symphony SimWorld platform, then whatever application you get, we give you the platform part for free. So the platform includes the data lake and then the analytics that starts to model back the improvements into the radio planning. So it slowly starts to produce a different way of producing an operation. I mean, the simple way, I think, to view what Rakuten Mobile's actually done is that it's digitalized the whole operational process of telecom inside applications.
So someone can come along and it's been described by Tarek before as a kind of app store, I guess, for the network. But the idea is that you can go in, you can dip in, you can take one or two applications, or you can go in a much fuller way and get something that's really comprehensive. And then there's the ability to sort of run it in any kind of cloud environment as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So let's peel that apart a little bit. The first thing is that the first discussion that we have, and we tend not to have purely technical discussions, they're not interesting. They tend to always be around technology, commercials, and organisation skill set.
Yep.
And we turn around and say, well, what really does success look like? What makes this worth us trying to do something? And then once we understand the outcome, if that's in kind of radio planning, that's in fault management, if that's in customer care, let's start there. Let's put the applications in place, transform that part of the business, but then also build a data-driven layer underneath it that then is, each time you add to it, you get more and more insight into what's actually happening. I mean, for example, when you end up with the end journey here, then the biggest alarm bell to a network fault we get in Japan is the customer saying that something's wrong. That triggers a trouble ticket that comes in that lets us investigate with fault management what's actually going on. When the earthquake happened, our system kicked in from a tweet that was issued by the Japanese government that automatically triggered the process for emergency, recovery protocols.
Yeah, and maybe just to finish, just coming back to that Japanese business. I mean, this process of situating Rakuten Mobile, I guess, within the ecosystem a bit more. And you mentioned being able to get points and being able to sort of tap into is it Ichiba, the e-commerce platform? Ichiba, yeah. I mean, is this? Can we now start to see quite a ramp up, do you think, in subscriber numbers now that this sort of stuff is being pushed out more, and we actually get to the scale that the business can sort of achieve?
Yeah, I think again, a lot of credit comes back to Tariq Amin strategically for this. I think he built a network where he needed to feel confident it could maintain the quality and had the capacity to grow.
Yep.
He invested a lot in doing that. He also market tested it for the last 2 years. Now I think his confidence is very high that we can start actually going into an acquisition mode. Then you get into very interesting financial discussions around what does acquisition look like in this world, because suddenly the business model is different.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
things
totally
change.
Well, that's sort of how I've thought of it to myself, that you can bundle things in, and one of the big attractions, I guess, of Amazon Prime over Netflix is you pay your subscription and you're getting free groceries as well as free TV, and which is something Netflix just can't do, obviously.
Yeah, so. And one of the, I think, away from the ecosystem, kind of that Rakuten has, the interesting part is that you are able to direct traffic and eyeballs and interest to different partners you choose, that then you can start to create an ecosystem for real, where you're not acquiring a company that bolts on the side of a very static network. You're actually dynamically taking part in the traffic management, the routing, the actual servicing. I mean, in marketing, that's called attribution.
Yeah, yeah. Well, be interesting to see how it works out over the next few months. I mean, there's a lot of eyeballs on it, a lot of attention. So, yeah, we'll no doubt be here or wherever the big 5G event is next year, and catching up with you to find out how it's all gone. But thanks very much, Geoff.
Thank you very much.
See you.